Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Moss here with some Pioneer gameplay. And today, I got to prepare for an RCQ this weekend, so I'm going to try out something new. Haven't played Red Green Boat, so I figured I'd give it a try because right now in the current meta, we definitely need something aggressive to kind of go underneath all of the Rakdos decks. And this deck definitely has the ability to get under those pesky mid-range decks that are dominating the format. Again, with Red Green Boat, as many people know, typical 8 elf package, pretty good. Out of the new set, we finally fixed our mana a little bit, and we got some Copperline Gorges. The Carplusian Forests are definitely a concession to the fact that this deck has a lot of green and red pips between the main board and sideboard, and those really just don't pair well with the pathways. So we're running the Painland, we're running these new duels, we've got our Manlands, and we've got Besagers. Typical stuff. Werewolf Pack Leader out there to draw some cards, be a pretty aggressive beater once you activate it. You got Lovestruck Beast, Bone Crusher Giant, Obliterating Bolt, big bodies and removal. Reckless Stormseeker is the big one for us because what that will allow us to do is to have any of our vehicles crewed, and with it on the field, we give it haste and then we let them go through and do their thing. Pretty impressive. And the deck runs the Akroan War. We got 3 in the main board, 1 in the side, to hopefully take the key pieces of big decks like Creativity or Niv to Light, since that's seeing a resurgence. And hopefully, Akroan War can give us some good wins and clean up some boards that will allow us to beat through for big damage. In the sideboard, Rending Volley, an uncounterable removal spell against like white and blue stuff. Hazoret, a blocker that really gets through anything. That indestructible little bit is a huge deal for us. And realistically, unless you've got Werewolf Pack Leader on the battlefield, this deck doesn't do a whole lot of card draw. So that little bit about it not being able to attack or block, not going to be super relevant most of the time. Embercleave to, again, give us some more aggression, especially in the early game, against decks that are going to be a little bit of an uphill battle. Clothis to help us deal with graveyard decks. And then more spice out of the new set. We got Tyrannax Rex, the fantastic dinosaur that's doing its best impression of that Ixalan classic. But we got Ward, we got Trample, we got Haste. It can't be countered. Toxic 4. Great in the control matchup, given it's not going to come down early, but this is going to be hard for any control deck to deal with once it hits the board. Soulless Jailer to help us get around the Cat Oven decks that are still seeing a good bit of play in the format. I lost to it in the last RCQ that I played. And then Luca, Bound to Ruin. Again, a good card against those grindy matchups like mid-range and control. Gives you an extra body, gives you mana if they decide to take out all of your dorks. And it gives you some big damage if you can activate your creatures with the little Phyrexian that it gives you. But that's everything. I'll see you guys in match number 1. Alright, and we are in match number 1. And we're going to be on the draw. So, overall, not the worst hand. It doesn't have any mana acceleration. It's got an Akroan War, it's got a Sky Sovereign and a Besage. It's a little slow, so I think we're going to mulligan this hand. Alright, this one's got a Carplusian Forest, it's got an Elf, it's got a Werewolf Pack Leader, and it's got a Chariot. This hand looks pretty solid. I think we're going to go ahead and keep this. And this is the really hard question that we have to ask ourselves. what do we want to get rid of here? I think, unfortunately, we want to get rid of the Beseiju and hope that we get our elf to stick around. But I think we're going to go ahead and get rid of our Mutavault just because, again, keeping the elf, probably good, and it'll allow us to play our werewolf pack leader on 2, just in case it meets its untimely end. Definitely a good choice because we are up against Rakdos. Alright. The good upkeep stop by our opponent. Alright, thankfully we don't have to deal with the Painland all that much. We're going to shock down to 18 and take our Llanowar Elf and put it on the table. And say go. Now, again, this deck can get underneath Rakdos really well and put it in a position where it's definitely backpedaling. But it's situations like that where we see our elf die that makes it kind of hard. Alright, I think in this scenario, we're going to go ahead and play the Carplusian Forest, and we're just going to take the pain off of it. That way we can play our werewolf pack leader. It definitely seems reasonable to use as an opportunity to play our elf, potentially bait out some more kill spells, and then play our Asika's Chariot, but let's just see what we can get our opponent to do here. So, they play it, and perfect opportunity for us. Yeah, taking 2 more is definitely not ideal here, but at least we can take their Bone Crusher off the table, and then we get to swing through for 3, play our elf. It's a pretty solid turn for us. Alright, opponent's down to 17. And let's see what they can do. Okay, looks like opponent hasn't got a turn 3 land drop. That's pretty big for us, actually. Oh, Reckless Stormseeker is a fantastic pickup for us here. But I think we're going to go ahead and take just a turn off to go ahead and play the Asika's Chariot, make a couple more bodies, and then use this as our opportunity to swing through for some damage. And let's see what our opponent does. So they're about to get likely their next land drop, and they're going to get a treasure token off of this Goblin Shaman. It's definitely tempting for us in this situation to animate our Chariot and block their Goblin Shaman, but they're going to be able to potentially just push our Chariot, which is the opposite of what we want in this situation. So opponent discarded a Blood-type Harvester. Interesting. So their hand's probably pretty stacked in this scenario. Alright, let's go ahead and just double block. Either bait out the push in their hand, but opponent just eats one of our cats, plays a land. Let's see what they do. Opponent's really thinking about this one. Okay, so they Dreadbore Werewolf pack leader. Probably the ideal move for them in this situation. They've still got a lot of mana up, and they can still crack their treasure token to push our Reckless Stormseeker. So we really need to be careful. We're going to go ahead and shock in that Stomping Ground just in case they can do something like playing a, playing a Blood-type Harvester next turn. We can use it and the mana off of our Llanowar Elf to kill their Fable. We have options. So we're just going to go ahead and pump the Asika's Chariot and make them have to answer this. Okay, opponent casts PKW, or PWK. Alright, but opponent's got us on that one. We're going to go ahead and pass. And yeah, no attacks. Opponent definitely knows that we're holding up something, but instead they get rid of our Reckless Storm Seeker instead of taking away our potential to get rid of their Fable here. But opponent's down to 2 cards, just like we are down to a very low amount as well. Opponent's got their Shieldred. Alright. Stomp their Reflection. And now we are definitely on the back foot. Alright, we're just going to go ahead and play our Bone Crusher Giant out and pass. No attacks out of us. Next turn, we're probably just going to throw the team in front of Shieldred, even though that would cause our entire team to die. But a Fatal Push definitely spells our undoing here. But we'll just try the simple thing for now and just double block. Yep, calling all of our opponent shots today. So they managed to break through. Ooh, and all we get is a Mutavault out of this. This game might be wrapped up for us right now. But let's see. And a Crow and War off the top actually does do a lot for us in this scenario. Alright, chump with our elf. Another Copperline Gorge. We're going to give it one more turn. We'll block with our Mutavault after we animate it on their attack, but I think we can wrap this game up pretty soon. Alright, let's go ahead and animate. And let's see what you got, opponent. Yep. That's a game. Alright. So, sideboarding. Alright, so in this situation, what do we want to do? Definitely bringing in Hazoret, just because it does so efficiently block their creature. Bringing in Luca, because that takes out basically everything in their deck. And bringing in the 4th of Crow and War. And then in this situation, we're just going to cut kind of a smattering of everything. Drop some of our elves. Now, given the deck itself really doesn't want to lose any of its vehicles, but I don't necessarily see any harm in cutting a chariot in this situation. And Obliterating Bolt takes out a good chunk of their deck. Bone Crusher Giant is good, but Stomp has very few targets. So we'll just drop one of each of the adventure creatures and start it up. Alright, so we're going to be on the play, obviously. Ooh, this hand is pretty trash. Mulligan. Okay, so hand lacks red mana. And the problem is, this deck can occasionally have some problems drawing cards. Playing against the Thoughtseize deck, you really don't want to mulligan too low, but I don't think that we can afford to not be able to have any plays. So we'll mulligan down to 5. Okay, this hand's infinitely better. Drop a Carplucian Forest, and drop a Bone Crusher. Actually, let's see. We're definitely going to drop the Bone Crusher, but I think we probably want to drop an Obliterating Bolt too. We just want to try to put pressure on the board. So sequencing matters now, especially with all the fast lands. Den of the Bugbear into Copperline Gorge, going to be good. You always want to start by playing your man lands first, not only because you can activate them, but also because they have a much more high restriction. All right, you don't want them to come down tapped on 3 when a Copperline Gorge can come in untapped still. So do that. Definitely playing the Stomping Ground tap would have been better, but it's a kind of minimal thing, especially when you got the Carplucian Forest in hand. Alright, opponent plays an Urborg, so now we are the Jund deck. And they play Reckoner Bankbuster. So opponent's got some card draw that they can rely on here, which is definitely pretty valuable for them. But we're playing a Stormseeker. We're going to give it haste and +1/+0 and swing for 3 on turn 3. Now, next turn, as long as they don't take out this current Stormseeker, we can play Werewolf Pack Leader next turn. So let's see. They play Sokenzon. And they tap out to play Fable. And Reckoner needs 3 to crew, so we're actually pretty good here. Alright. The Forest off the top was actually pretty great for us too. Play Werewolf Pack Leader. We're going to give it haste. And then swing for 4, and we get to draw a card off of this. Alright, ooh, and we get another Stormseeker. So the aggression continues with this deck. Okay, opponent's going to block, and they're going to take 2, down to 15. Now, if opponent plays Shieldred next turn, we're probably going to have a hard time getting around it, and the fact that they'll be able to crew their Bankbuster to potentially deal with it definitely isn't great, but being able to activate our Werewolf Pack Leader to give it that extra reach is pretty important. But let's see what our opponent does. Okay, opponent discards Kroxa and a Blightstep Pathway. They play a Haunted Ridge. It's kind of surprising that we actually haven't seen the Blackcleave Cliffs out of opponent's deck currently. Ooh, okay. Ritual of Soot. That's an interesting inclusion, but not necessarily a bad one, given the circumstance. Alright. Asika's Chariot's really good here. Now, we could play Chariot onto an empty board. We've got options. I think we're just going to go ahead and play Chariot here, because this does give us a pretty high upside next turn of being able to crew it next turn with a Stormseeker and a Cat and swing for 7 and still keep an extra blocker. And we're not playing into another potential sweeper out of the deck. Alright, so Castle Lochthwain. Okay, come on. Let's see what you can do, opponent. 4 cards in hand. For a mulligan to 5, this is actually a pretty good position for us to be in. Opponent just passes, though. But we get another land, and now we're up to 6 in hand. So we could use this as our opportunity to cast 2 Stormseekers that are now flipped. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, yeah, they're both going to flip back next turn, but this isn't necessarily the worst thing for us. No, let's see. We could crew this with one of our new Storm Seekers, and then pump two different things, swing in for 4, 8, and then it's not bad, but we can swing in for, yeah, that's actually not a bad move for us. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and tap both of our cats, move to combat our creature's trigger, and target. Right, so now everything can attack. Let's see what our opponent does here. But swinging for 14 here, pretty big. Chances are, though, that our opponent does have removal of some kind. But they're really thinking this one over. Alright, so they cast a Stomp. Oh, opponent's going to cast 2 Stomps on one of our creatures. Okay. I don't necessarily hate that because they basically just wasted 2 removal spells. And now we're going to make a copy of a cat token. And then next turn, we can animate our Den of the Bugbear. And then still have a lot of aggression on the board. They're going to have a lot of blockers. That's the biggest issue for us. They're going to have a lot of blockers. But right now we're in a position where we can swing out and likely have the win against our opponent. But it really just depends on how they play this turn out. So it looks like opponent's about to shock in the Blood Crypt and leave up removal of some variety, or at least leave up an activation of their reflection and removal. But that should actually wrap things up. Not being able to, get the Den of the Bugbear activation here, not the greatest, but having the Werewolf Pack Leader, pretty good for us. Alright, let's see what our opponent does. They abrade the Storm Seeker. I get that they don't want us to draw a card with Werewolf Pack Leader, but that also just seems kind of loose. It seems really loose. Alright, you know what? We'll let that through. Sure, opponent. You got it. Why you didn't abrade the Chariot, though, still seems odd. Alright, so crew. And they're definitely going to block. But the problem is, like, next turn they still lose. We're still a lot of life up on this opponent. And make a copy of the cat. Okay. Yep, make the copy. Unless the opponent's doing something crazy, like they've got their own Ember Cleave, but they're still down to 2, and we're going to have so many bodies on the board that it's about to not matter what they do to us. Unless they just rip Shieldred off the top. The opponent's drawing with the Reckoner Bankbuster, desperately trying to get some card draw. They can be up to 3 blockers, but they need another Ritual of Soot, and even then, we've still got the Den of the Bugbear activation that they can't deal with, and opponent scoops it up. Sweet! Alright. So, do we want to change anything up in the post-board game? Honestly, dropping in a Crone War might be kind of fine for us because Clothis gives us a sense of inevitability that their deck really cannot overcome. But Hazret, similarly, brings a lot of aggression to the table. All right, game number 3. Hand is pretty stacked, honestly. Like, they may have a fatal push on 1, but for the most part, our hand is really good. And being able to Luca on 4 if we get to keep, or actually Luca on 3 if we manage to keep this Elvish Mystic, is great for us. Alright, opponent casts Hive, doesn't do anything. Let's see. Alright, we get another Carplution. Let's go ahead and just play Beseiju. This is the problem that I have with some of these legendary lands. Like, having multiple copies of it, like so many other like streamers and Magic pros have said, multiple copies feels bad. But it makes sense for this deck because you can play it as a land, you can use it as removal for a good number of things in the format. Alright, opponent gets rid of our Elvish Mystic. Okay, again, we're left with this weird tension. We're gonna play the Den here on 2 and not be able to do anything with it. But if we get to keep this creature around, having Luca next turn that can tick down, make a body that basically blocks everything in their decks super efficiently, it's pretty good. Another stomp though. Alright, opponent's got Luca to take. Unfortunate, but we're still left pretty stacked here. Ooh, all these Carplution forests though. Alright. So, play Werewolf, Pack Leader, say go. Okay, opponent's probably going to play a Bone Crusher Giant this turn. Again, it's so weird that opponent has not played a single fast land. But they've got aggression out the wazoo. So, I mean, if it works, it works. Alright. Thankfully, we've got something that they cannot deal with. And that is a Love-Struck Beast. This just 5/5 body does so much that their deck cannot respond to it. Like, unless they have a Fatal Push with only 1 card in hand, they're probably not doing a whole lot. Okay, Urborg. What's opponent gonna do? Probably put a body on the table, leave up an opportunity to draw a card. Yeah, opponent passes. Alright. Okay, double Bone Crusher's interesting. Because not only can we get rid of their creature, but we also have the ability to like swing through for 6. I mean, yeah, we're gonna take 1 in the process, but well, actually, we're gonna take 4, 6 in the process. That's kind of bad, but again, there's only so much that we can do here. Pushing through this damage is so much better. Let's see if opponent catches that they should animate with their Bank Buster. Okay. Opponent does see the line. Alright. Opponent doesn't have the Fatal Push in hand, which is pretty good for us here. They're not going to block. I mean, I get wanting to keep everything, but okay. So, Next turn, we've definitely got a big decision. We could play a Bone Crusher Giant, or we could animate our Den of the Bugbear. What's opponent going to do, though? They play a castle. Do they have a Dreadbore in hand? Nope. They're just going to play their Bone Crusher. Again, like, we're hitting ourselves for so much here, but it's kind of worth it. Okay. And our opponent can't really, again, do a whole lot to this, like, 5/5 body. Because if they block, we're just going to take their Bank Buster. They can have their Goblin Shaman, but nothing else is staying on this board. Cutting them off a card draw is pretty good for us. But they're just going to block with their Goblin Shaman. Again, weird decisions made out of the opponent, prioritizing keeping the Bank Buster smart on their part. Alright, opponent's going to make some desperation draws. Again, us acting so aggressively in killing Bone Crusher Giants this entire time is gonna be impactful. Okay, opponent casts Ritual. Not bad. Not the greatest, though. Okay. So, we're gonna go ahead and play the Mutavault and play Bone Crusher Giant here. And the reason why we're gonna do that rather than animating the Den of the Bugbear is just because they have the Hive of the Eye Tyrant on the field. And being able to animate that and swing and potentially get through our lack of blockers, pretty big. Opponent's drawing a lot of lands, but that just means that the rest of their hand is going to be stacked. Alright, they play... Yeah. This was the situation that we were really worried about, because they're about to go in. Are they just going to draw, though? Because that's kind of good for us if they decide to draw rather than animating their Hive. Like, yeah, they get to make a creature, but it's not the worst. And if we draw a land, an untapped land, we can animate both of our things. Alright. Just going to go ahead and play our Werewolf Pack Leader and say go. So, this game was definitely ours to lose here. Because we were in a really good position before we started removing their creatures and causing ourselves a lot of damage in the process. But opponents really kind of ignored their Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Okay, opponent plays another Bank Buster. I mean, they're still potentially going to take themselves off of Hive of the Eye Tyrant here. Let's see what they do. Okay, opponent doesn't attack, which isn't bad. Okay, let's see. We're gonna Crowan Ward their Reflection of Kiki Jiki. Because next turn we can start drawing cards. A lot of cards. And thankfully this doesn't turn on Revolt. So opponents animating their Reckoner Bankbuster for whatever reason. And they're pushing our Werewolf pack leader. Smart for them. They definitely saw the line that we were going for. Alright. But let's see what opponent does. Alright, they draw a card. Next turn, they could swing for 7. And they stomp. Yep, I think opponent got us here. But we're going to give it just a little bit more. Let's see what they do. They could animate Hive. They could animate Hive. They could crew their Bankbuster, swing for 7, take something out of our yard. We're going to block with Mutavault. It's not the greatest move for us in this situation, but we're going to block. We have to block. Something like the Cadillac still keeps us in this game. And they can still draw with their Bankbuster. Okay, does opponent finally animate their Hive? Yep. I mean, they've got creatures. They can do a lot here. Alright, so let's just go ahead and animate. Okay. And we block. Okay, opponent plays a land tapped. Man, we absolutely fumbled this game. Alright. Well, we're gonna go ahead and keep in it as long as we can. We're gonna hold on to this Soken'Zon and channel it on their attack. Cool. Opponent draws. If opponent sees the line, they're gonna animate, play Bone Crusher, animate the other one, and swing, and there's, the chance that no matter what they do, we can't get through it. I think they do actually see this line. Or are they just going to try to swing for 7 again? I mean, we're going to take 3. Alright, and with all of them, we're just going to make colorless. I mean, opponents got us here. Alright, GG's. Alright, see you guys in the next one. Alright, and we are in match number 2. Okay, so we're gonna be on the draw. Oh, this hand is so good if we draw another land. And we've got 2 turns technically to do it. Alright, yeah, we're gonna keep it. Risk it for the biscuit. Alright, let's see what you got, opponent. As long as you are not Rakdos, then we're good. No Rakdos, no mono red. No Rakdos, no mono red. Oh no, they're blue, black control. Alright, gross, but fine. We drew the land, thankfully, so that's not bad for us. Striped River Winder? Is this cycling? I don't know what opponent's deck is doing, but it is interesting. Alright, we're gonna definitely run this out. We're probably running it right into the middle of a counterspell. No. Okay. Oh, okay. Never mind. I know what we're playing against. Gross. We're playing against Soul Herder. Or Soul Herder. Yeah, Soul Herder. No, Soul Herder's the one in Modern. We're playing against the Pioneer thing that gets keyword soup. Soul Flayer. That's its name. Okay. Um, I mean, it's got Trample Vigilance. It's got keyword soup. Um, that's gross. I don't actually think that we can come back unless we just get too big for it to handle, which is a possibility. All right, we're just gonna do it like this and pass. I mean, they're gonna hit us for 8 next turn, down to 10. They're gonna go up to 21. Unless they're just gonna play another one? Okay. Yep. You got it, opponent. Oh, it doesn't have lifelink. Hold up. Um, okay. This... Yeah, it doesn't have lifelink. Okay, losing that on the keyword soup is actually kind of good for us. They're gonna have to deal 2 extra damage somehow? Alright, so, yeah. Opponent, do your thing. Do your thing, opponent. Okay. Opponent's gotta hit us for 2 more damage. And they're gonna have to be able to... Oh man, if we only had, like, some mana open right now. Okay, so... Clothis is gonna be good in this matchup. Huh. I guess Zatalpa doesn't actually have lifelink. And they probably don't have a way to pump their Soul Flare. Wow, and we win that. Holy cow. Alright, so in this situation, what do we want? Alright, so can't cast cards, can't enter the battlefield. Meh. Honestly, the Acroan Ward doesn't feel that good here, just because it's gonna have hexproof. think what we want instead is Embercleave for aggression, Hazoret, and Clothis. Yeah. And then I think we're just going to cut... the Cadillac was actually really good here. Cutting Sky Sovereign's probably the better choice. And cut the, elves. Oh, wow, that was such a good win for us. This hand can start off well. After that beginning, though, it's really got to rely on top decking like a champ. Okay, but we can, again, Reckless Stormseeker on 2, which is pretty good. Alright. So, Llanowar Elf. Go. Alright, they cycle Riverwinder. And they do need 2 black. Alright, there's the Watery Grave that they shock in. They can Grizzly Salvage on our end step, but man oh man. Alright, there it is. Alright, we need to be able to do the impossible here. Alright. So, Clothis is good. If only she activated on ETB, then it would be so much better. Oh. So the opponent's scared of that. Okay, that's actually good for us to know. And they're prepared. Alright, opponent's got their second black, so next turn they can cast the Soul Flare. But they gotta deal with Clothis this coming turn. Like, they can go ahead and just cast whatever. Huh. Soul Flare is definitely a deck that I haven't seen since the beginning of the Pioneer format, so kind of cool to see it pop up here again. Alright, let's go ahead and do this again. Alright. Next turn, we can play something and potentially... We can play our Stormseeker. We're going to be up to 5 Devotion. But we're going to need a lot more than that. Alright, so they just play Soul Flare out as a hexproof creature. Cool. Alright, we're going to go ahead and play Carplution. And then do it like this. Opponent's probably going to hold a lot of their spells. That way, Clothis doesn't have any fodder. Okay, let's see. Alright, we get the flip. Okay, so now we're in this position. Let's play the Den of the Bugbear. Let's do all of this. Animate our Lair of the Hydra. Unfortunately, not having any of this, like, extra cards that our deck can do, it kinda sucks for us. Alright. Give it haste and give it trample. Swing 6. Now if opponent has a fatal push, they got us. Instead they have a swift end, and next turn they have a murderous rider. Okay. I mean, they go to 14. It's not the worst. Okay. Opponent is considering their options. They play Fauna Shaman? Okay, so maybe they can do something like tutor up a... Oh, well. Let's just go ahead and add a green, play this, and then that. Alright. Okay, we actually need to draw some cards here. Alright. Running the Werewolf Pack Leader out into just the face of damage sucks so much, but now we're actually getting to take out the Soul Flare here, which is pretty rad. And we've got our opponent down to 9. Okay, so this Soul Flare deck has definitely kept me on my toes. They cycle another River Winder, and they pass. Oh, we pass. Wow, this deck though. We're back down to 4 devotion, but we really don't care about that, given the position that we're in. We're going to take one of their things, or we're going to eat our Werewolf Pack Leader. And the next turn we get to cast a Seeker's Chariot, give it haste and trample, and push through a lot of damage. Opponent could play another Soul Flare onto this empty board, which, I mean, it's definitely a thing. They could tutor up a Soul Flare, throw as a Tulpa into the yard with their Fauna Shaman. That's actually a really good card for them to get out of Brothers War, but opponent scoops it up. All right, we'll see you guys in match number 3. All right, we are in match number 3, and we are on the play. Let's see what this deck can do. All right. Hand seems a little slow, but it's got everything our deck is trying to do, so I think we're going to go ahead and keep this one. Let's go ahead and try to throw the opponent off of our tracks by playing a Mutavault and pass. Oh, opponents. Okay, opponent looks like they're playing mono blue. Well, no, they're playing Bant. They're playing Bant Spirits. Alright, let's go ahead and do this. Let's force them to go ahead and pop this. Alright, sweet. So, opponent plays a Hingegate Pathway. Alright, so they play a Shacklegeist and pass. We're going to go ahead and play a Forest. Alright, let's get a little aggressive here. Because next turn we can still play a Asika's Chariot off of the Carplusian Forest, and we're really just trying to push through some extra damage. Alright, so opponent's at 16. Again, the fast lands across the format are so good for us. Alright, Extraction Specialist is a little new. And I guess they're not playing Bant. I guess they're just playing blue-white tempo? Okay. So, tap down our... Not bad. We're just going to go ahead and play the Chariot, though. Alright. I will admit, the Extraction Specialist getting back to Mausoleum Wanderer is pretty sick. Alright. Opponent is getting a little frisky. Alright. Okay, swinging with the Shacklegeist. I mean, swinging for 3 in the air is not bad. So, opponent's probably going to go ahead and hold up their 2 spirits until we go and try to crew our chariot. Alright, we're going to go ahead and play this. Alright. Alright. So, go ahead and tap it down. Alright. Let's go ahead and play the Sky Sovereign. And let's see. Okay, so they do have the rattle chains here. Not bad. So they give it hexproof. They're gonna swing pretty hard in the air this next turn. But we're gonna be able to respond pretty hard on our own as well. So you're gonna swing for 6, 8, 9, 12 potentially this turn. We're definitely going to chump their extraction specialist and just take the 9 in the air. But we're going to be able to respond pretty effectively. Okay, so they're making kind of the conservative attack here. All right, opponent's gonna try to do it here. But let's see what they do here. Because we're trying to bait him with this Asika's Chariot. Okay. So opponent's really thinking over this decision. But we've definitely put them in a weird spot. Because we're going to make another creature. They've got some decent blocks that they can make here. We've got the potential to crew. Alright, good. So they took it. Alright. Now, I will be kind of surprised if they try to blow us out here with a Wandering Emperor. Not entirely shocked by it, but, you know, it will definitely be a thing. Oh. Interesting. Okay, so they're really going for the Spirit Tempo plan here. They get to pump up their rattle chains. They get to make their Mausoleum Wanderer a little bigger. They get to give their creature hexproof, but they got a block in the air, hopefully. Or they can try to take us off of an extra mana. Alright, yeah, they're just going to eat up one of the creatures, and the next turn they swing through for a good bit in the air, actually. Alright, so it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're really looking at a potentially lethal swing next turn out of our opponent. So that's definitely a little worrisome. But we can at least thankfully take out their extraction specialist that they're going to attack with on the ground. Alright, they play another Shacklegeist. So we've got more tapping potential. Ooh, wait a second. Alright, here we go. So 5, 8, 11. Dang, they got us there. Alright, sweet. Game 2. Good move out of our opponent. Alright, so what do we want to do here? I think our ideal scenario, a Crone War is good, but I don't know if it's good enough, especially when they're flashing in creatures the way that they are. Rending Volley, definitely going to be good for us. And do we really want to bring in anything else here? There is definitely a part of me that wants to bring in the Tyrannax, just because it's something that they cannot interact with because of that ward. And I mean, in that situation, we have enough mana to cast it. Alright, we're going to go ahead and take it and drop one of the chariots here. Alright, so game number 2, we are going to be on the play. Okay, so this hand is fairly aggressive. No removal, but we can do a lot of things. Chances are our opponent brought in some good counter spells out of the side, but I think if we get an early enough start, they're going to have a hard time overcoming it. Alright, so we're going to start with an Elvish Mystic on 1. Going to go into a Werewolf Pack Leader on 2. Okay, yeah, so... Alright, again, I think we're going to try to bait our opponent here. Oh, but that's so tempting. Yeah, I think what we really want to do here is just cast Lovestruck Beast, because it's going to be hard for our opponent to actually deal with it. Because they can play Shacklegeist here and just tap it down, but that's not going to do a whole lot of good for them. Okay. Now, not drawing any red sources right now is definitely proving a little problematic, but we're just going to go ahead and keep pushing as much as we can. All right. So we've established a fairly aggressive board. Let's see what our opponent tries to do. Because they're going to have to start chumping soon. And next turn, we can activate our Werewolf Pack Leader in combat to just swing over anything. 3 Seachrome Coast. Not a bad start out of our opponent's tempo deck. Okay, so they're definitely gonna try something this next turn. So we're just gonna move to combat. Nebelgast Herald. Interesting, interesting. Okay. You got a Nebelgast Herald. Well, let's see what our opponent does with a werewolf pack leader coming at them. Alright, so they're not going to try to block it. That's good. In this situation, I think just casting another Lovestruck Beast probably in our best interest, and we'll play Llanowar Elf. Now, I doubt our opponent's deck is doing something like this, but if they play a board wipe right now, we are done for. Alright, they're just swinging with the Nebelgast Herald. They're gonna end up playing the Shacklegeist some point soon. Alright. Let's just go ahead and play out the Sokenzon and move to combat. We're gonna draw a card here. Alright. They play a Spectral Sailor. Interesting. Oh. Yep, that would do it. Alright, so they're going to keep tapping down our creatures. Alright. Opponent's really going aggro here. Alright, opponent's going for it. Alright, they give something hexproof. What are they going to target? Okay, they're going to give it to the... Yeah. Smart move for them. Alright. I think the best thing for us to do right here is to... Because they're just going to trade with the werewolf pack leader. But I think that's actually okay for us in this scenario. So let's see what they do. What'll be interesting is if they blink it. Alright, well, let's make them have it. Alright. They took all their rattle chains. But what is opponent going to do? I will admit, their tempo strategy is really good in this situation, because being able to tap down any of our creatures is huge for them. Alright, opponent plays a Plains. They're down to 3 cards in hand. They've got about 5 damage on board. Maybe a little more if they played a Lord, but just swinging in the air. So I think what we need to do is we need to try and get a counter spell out of their hand. So just going to target their Nebelgast Herald with an Obliterating Bolt. Alright. And opponent scoops it up. That's actually really good for us. Okay, so I think we're in a situation where Tyrannax Rex is still okay, but that its efficacy is definitely questionable when we are put into a position like we were in that last game. Not having land, iffy. But Trample Word Haste, huge. If any of our stuff had reach, this changes things significantly. Or even if we just had better vehicles, not to say that these are bad, but just something better. I'm tempted to bring in the Embercleaves because we haven't really seen counter spells out of this opponent. Okay, so actually, this is such a hard consideration. We only got to take out one thing. Alright, we're just gonna go ahead and take out an elf because that's the typical drop. Again, I still think taking out the Asika's Chariot, just taking out one of the vehicles here, kind of big, because these take up an entire turn to deal with. And if we get put back a whole turn like that, it's kind of a beating for us. Alright, so game 3. Again, this isn't a bad hand. It's aggressive, the curve is good. This is like the ideal scenario for us. So we're going to go ahead and keep it. Okay, an opponent plays an Adhikar Waste, so they're going to have to take a damage for whatever creature they decide to play on our end step. They're probably going to play the Flash Pirate. No, opponent just passes. Okay, Shacklegeist. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and push as much aggression as we can on turn 2 and just put 2 more creatures on the board. We've got 5 mana available next turn, and they're likely going to do something before our combat or on our upkeep. Oh. Yeah. Skyclave is a creature. A creature that I had not considered in this deck. It's a spirit. Alright, so here they gotta take out what? The Werewolf Pack Leader because it's the most... Okay, opponent. That's a choice. Now what are you going to take out? You're going to drop? That's actually a really good choice now that I think about it. Alright, so gonna play Mystic, gonna play Heart's Desire here, gonna swing for 3. And next turn we can either play Lovestruck Beast with hopefully enough mana to stop it from being countered by something, or we can play Asika's Chariot. Or we can just swing hard next turn and draw a lot of cards. Well, a card. But attacking like this, it seems like opponent's gonna use the Adhikar Waste colorless to animate Mutavault and tap down something, either in upkeep or right before combat. Okay. Let's just start by casting Lovestruck and seeing what they do. Okay. Opponent casts a Spell Queller. Good. Good. Alright, an opponent's going to tap down the Elvish Mystic, or rather the Werewolf Pack Leader. Alright, let's do it. Does opponent have the counter spell? Do they have the blink spell? They don't. Alright, so now that we've taken out their one major threat, we get to start pushing again. Okay. Now, next turn we do have some serious questions to ask ourselves. Do we want the Chariot to put 2 extra creatures on the ground? Or do we want to put a big body on the ground? But opponent's getting a little frisky with their cards, which definitely makes us think that they are just going to fill the board. Alright, they are going to take out our... another... That's definitely a choice of our opponent. All right, we're going to go ahead and play the Asika's Chariot out here. They're going to be able to swing for 4 in the air, but I think we can accept that given the aggression that we can put forth. A rending volley off the top is kind of incredible for us. Well, let's see what they do. All right, land. All right, we're definitely backpedaling. We're trying to fight back. If opponent can put just 1 extra creature in the air. Okay, yep. And our opponent can kind of just tank this attack. Yeah. We've definitely lost this match, but let's see how they do it. Oh, wait. 4. Alright. Here we go. Oh, man. Yeah. This kind of does it for us. I mean, a good tempo by our opponent. Like, that's just a house. Oh, and the spell quellers. Yeah. Opponent's just gonna tank the 7. Yeah. Alright, GG's opponent. Alright, see you guys in the next one. Alright, we are in match number 4. Alright, let's see. Hand's got a 1, 2, 3 play. I mean, I can't hate it. Oh no. Oh, no? Okay, Skrelv? Gotta enjoy the fact that there's like so much spice right after the set comes out. Chances are they're probably trying to do the like anointed procession on a body Mondrak nonsense with Skrelv, unless they're just gonna try to do red white toxic. But let's see. Oh no, they're doing hammer. Alright, we're gonna stomp the cacophony scamp. Oh man, I forgot the red white hammer time is gonna be a thing now. Alright, so this is gonna be an interesting matchup. Now, they can do one of the fun, like, white. What? Okay. Alright, little piece of draft chaff turned into a decent creature, I suppose? And it's a rebel, it's not a warrior, so we don't really have to worry about the good spell that actually puts some extra pressure on us. So we're just going to throw the Love Struck Beast on the board because it's going to be a pretty efficient blocker in this situation. And double strike's not really going to matter when our body's just slightly bigger than it. Oh, okay. Never mind. Mall of the Skyclaves. Okay. So hit us for 8 in the air. That's actually very impactful right now. So we could shock this in and play Elvish Mystic and Reckless Stormseeker and swing in for a good bit of damage on this board. Because again, we can't block. We cannot block them currently. And honestly, that's going to be pretty big for us next turn, as long as they don't do something like potentially playing a Boros Charm in their deck, then we're okay. So let's just see what happens. This is probably one of the hardest things to do. Wow. Okay. Um, I mean, thankfully next turn again we can like Sky Sovereign Crew. Whew. All right, cool. All right, sweet. All right, so oh wait, we can actually just win next turn. Wow. We have clinched a lot of games like that this league. So we're going to go ahead and play Sky Sovereign, hit Aster for 3. We're going to go ahead and crew it. Actually, hold up. Aster takes 3 to crew, or Sky Sovereign takes 3 to crew. We can't necessarily... We can't necessarily kill them this turn. Oh, that's rough. Wait a second. Yeah. Oh, man. That sucks. Oh, wait, no, we could have won. Wow. Oh, God. What a punt out of us. Because that's 11, and then the extra one off of this. Ah, this game was ours, and we lost it. I mean, opponents gotta like block with Aster or they lose. But we still lose on the backswing just to Mishra's Foundry. Oh my gosh. That's so bad. Oh no. Let's see if opponent realizes it. Maybe they won't realize that they can animate their Foundry. Nope, they realize that they can animate their Foundry. Okay, sweet. Good game. Alright, so. Wow. That was a massive punt on our part. Um, alright, drop our Mystics, drop a Chariot. We bring in the Rending Volleys. Well, really, are there a lot of white creatures that we need to deal with out of this deck? I mean, we could realistically just turn around and do our own version of the equipment thing by playing Ember Cleaves, because this only hits Skreld and Aster, and while Aster is kind of vital to their overall plan, they've got a lot of other things. We'll bring in two, and we'll drop in a Crowan War to bring in some Ember Cleaves. We'll drop two. Yeah. Oh, that was such a punt. Alright. Yeah, hand's keepable. Alright. Yeah, hand's fine because it can Asika's Chariot on 3. Opponent's not really going to interact with our board in any meaningful way. I mean, we're both just seeing who can do their thing the fastest. Alright, opponent shocks. Let's see what they do. They play Portable Hole. Alright. Layer the Hydra. Play another. And then next turn we play Mutavault into a Asika's Chariot. I will admit, having Beseiju in our opening hand here is actually pretty good for us, because now we can take out their, like, hammers, we can take out their Sigarda's Aid. There's a lot of things that we can deal with now. And thankfully with Chariot, we get to put 2 extra blockers on the board. Sure, we might advance them a little bit on mana, but I think we can deal with that given the circumstance. And when we crew the Chariot, Beseiju gets, its little bit of a buff. Which ain't bad. Alright, Cacophony Scamp. Alright. Opponent's really leaning hard into this, so now we get to have some fun. Alright, so let's go Forest. And then we will crew. Wow. If it wasn't for that punt in the first game, man. Alright. So Beseiju taking out their hammer. Alright. Alright. Let's see what opponent has going. Are they going to block? Nope. They're just going to take 6. Maybe they've got another hammer in hand and they don't expect us to block. Maybe they can get unblockable somehow. Nope. Instead, they get Blade Hold War. Blade Hold War Whip. Alright, so they're just going to equip. They also get that. And the opponent actually messed up there. So they needed to resolve the Blade Hold War Whip trigger first, and then do their other one. Alright, so play another one of these. Let's crew. Alright, we'll tap the new one. And Make this. Actually, do we really want to do that? Alright. So at least we're not the only ones punting, but man, again, this just feels like such a bad spot for us. Now let's see what opponent does. Yeah, they're gonna do the smart thing there and block our Mutavault, take 6. And then if they get something like Maul of the Skyclaves off the top, then we're gonna be hoping and praying to overcome them. Man. Alright, what's opponent got in their hand? It's something. Okay, they get an Aster. So they're probably going to go ahead and put the hammer in their hand. And we're just going to put some extra damage on the table. If we got another Besage right now, we'd be set. Okay, so this is actually kind of good for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just stomp their Rebel. And then we're going to play our Bone Crusher Giant, use it to create the Chariot, and opponent scoops it up. That was much more stressful than it needed to be. Alright, I'm just going to run it back. Alright, game number 3. Okay. So, opponent's mulliganing, or no, opponent's keeping their hand. This hand's good, but can it overcome whatever they would do? Now, thankfully, Sky Sovereign's removal on a vehicle, but if they go 1 Cacophony Scamp into turn 2 Sigarda's Aid and another thing, they definitely hit hard. Okay, so they're just going Gingerbread on 1. Opponent did mulligan to 6. Alright. Alright. I'm just gonna go ahead and play our Mystic and pass. Gingerbread's not great for us. If they play Inspiring Vantage, Sigarda's Aid, Hammer, then it would suck, but I think we're fine. Yeah. Okay, so Fireblade Charger definitely shows that something bad's about to happen to us unless we adequately prepare for it. And I think the only way we can do that is if it wasn't a warrior. And it's the fact that they can do it at instant speed that makes it such a problem. Alright, so when it dies, they're both warriors. Alright, we're gonna risk it here and play Werewolf Pack Leader out. And we just gotta hope that they don't have the Wombo here. Alright, they Shock Foundry. What do they got? What do they got? Alright, they give it unblockable. actually okay with this? Okay, opponent trades, and they're just gonna use their stuff to kill what? Alright, they're throwing one at us and one at our elf. Alright. They got Srom. Srom's a bit of an issue, actually. Alright. He's a dwarf advisor. Okay, we're gonna do it. Oh, this is such a risky scenario. Alright. There's not really a way for them with this current board for them to deal 12 damage in a single turn. Okay, drawing Besage You here is actually really good for us. Okay, yeah. So, okay. Let's see what they do. Land in a Cacophony Scamp. Okay. We're good. Opponent swinging for 3. You know, I think we're okay with that now. If we can get a land this turn. Oh, man. Alright, let's... Well, it would be good to put extra pressure on and just play like the Lovestruck Beast onto this board. It wouldn't be able to attack. Oh, wow. This is such a beating. Alright, let's go. Oh, Copperline Gorge, why? Okay. I actually don't hate that. Alright, let's go ahead and play the Obliterating Bolt on Srom just before they can draw any extra cards. Okay, I think we've managed to like rally in this situation, but boy, did that... Whew. Wow. Brutal, brutal game. Alright, see you guys in the final match. Alright, and we are in the final match, and we are on the play. You know what? If Llanowar Elf lives, this hand is insane. We're going to keep. Everything is contingent upon this elf seeing turn 2. Or, you know, maybe us drawing another green source on turn 2. Alright. Pass for our opponent. Green-white. Okay, so our opponent's likely not running a lot of removal, which is good. And they're playing an elf of their own. So the traditional maxim is to bolt the bird. Taking out the dork seems like the best option here. But there is a chance that they play something big that this obliterating bolt can target that's better. So let's see. Alright, they play Boulder Loft. Armored Scrap Gorger. Okay, so opponent's trying to do some like hyper aggressive like poison shenanigans, I believe. Alright, let's just see what happens here. And thankfully we've got the Akroan War in hand, so we can like take anything big that they would decide to play this turn. Like Mondrak. And Mondrak's gonna be nuts. absolutely nuts when we play a Seeker's Chariot next turn. All right. Opponent's down to 11. Now, not only are we going to be able to make 4 tokens, because it should double them, but we're going to be able to make 2 more with the activations after it. And they got to figure out a way to, like, exile Mondrak that or get rid of our Crowan War. I don't necessarily hate this. Oh, they're playing Naya tokens. Okay, they get another Mondrak. That's fine, though. Yep. And we get to draw a card. Okay. Alright, what's opponent doing? Oh, they got a chariot of their own. Okay. Is that really going to be super helpful for them in this situation? Because they got to attack with their, like... I mean... I guess the smart thing for them in this situation is to just go ahead and give Mondrak, like, indestructible? But they have to take, like, 4 damage to do that. It's so much better for them to just, like, attack, lose Mondrak next turn. Well, let's see what they do. Oh, wow. That was an insane opening hand for us. Okay. So this is going to be interesting for us. I think keeping in the Crowan Wars in our sideboard games are going to be huge. But let's see. Opponent's deep in the tank with this. Okay. Let's see what you do, opponent. Alright, you finally attack. And you know what? We will take 5 all day. Put an upkeep stop, that way we can go ahead and just tap their Mondrak before they get it back and before the Crowan War pops. Okay, so let's see. Alright, opponent scoops it up. Let's go. Okay. So, sideboard games. What do we want to bring in? I mean, Rending Volley is going to be okay against their Mondrak, but so is a Crowan War, as evidenced by that game. Hazard's actually going to be kind of good for blocking. And Embercleave is going to be great for just being aggressive. So do our smattering of cuts as we have been. And now here's where we start to question things. Do we want to get rid of a pack leader or a Bone Crusher Giant? I'm almost of the opinion that we want to drop a Bone Crusher Giant just because of what it's doing, but like our curve is starting to get really high in these post-board games. So I think the best thing for us here is to drop a Sky Sovereign. Alright, and let's just see how this goes. Going down on our vehicles package definitely feels bad, but as we can see here, we've got a perfect 1, 2, 3 curve. Like, we'll be able to take out their dork if they played one, but Opponent has no turn 1 play. Alright, opponent's probably fearing a Crowan War out of us again. And look at us calling our shots. Alright, play an elf on 1 and pass. Let's see what opponent does. Okay, Voice of Resurgence is actually a great card out of their side, but it's not really going to do a whole lot of good right now. When we just stomp it, yeah, they get their, 1-1 out of the whole ordeal, but we're kind of okay with that. Alright, so pass. If they play Mondrak on 4, we're kind of okay with that trade. Alright, they're going to swing? Because right now we've, again, got the perfect, 1, 2, 3 curve. Alright, I think we're just going to go ahead and use this turn to play a Lovestruck Beast because it blocks their token pretty efficiently. And let's just see if they block. They should, given the scenario. Alright, they don't. So what's the opponent going to do? They play Copperline Gorge. Alright, so this turn we're actually going to just use all of our mana, go ahead and play Stormseeker and the Elvish Mystic, and let's go ahead and give the buff to the human token. Because again, we're still leaving ourselves open to the possibility of playing a Crowan War next turn, but we're also leaving ourselves open to playing the Sky Sovereign, and then just removing so much of their board in a big swing. Okay, opponent's really considering their blocks, but they don't go for a single one. They're going to go ahead and take the 7 damage. Alright, pass to opponent. Let's see what they do. They go for Mondrak. Okay. So here, our biggest option is to just cast this. And then we're going to take the Mondrak. We're going to give the Mondrak haste. And then we're going to swing with both. They've got 10 damage to block. Smartest thing for them is to just chump chump. They get to make another token, which will be cool. Instead, they just block the 1. Alright, that means that next turn, we get to play Sky Sovereign, Crew, Kill. Holy cow. Naya tokens look sick, but our deck is sicker. Alright, opponent, what you got for us? Let's go. Alright, we made it. Kids are eating. Alright, see you guys in the wrap-up. Alright, so what were our final thoughts on Red Green Boat with its upgrades from the new set? I mean, Copperline Gorge is an amazing card. Honestly, in all of our games, we didn't really see a whole lot of our sideboard pieces. I definitely question the efficacy of something like Soulless Jailer. I still think that cards like Weathered Runestone do a lot better. And while the body's cool, Weathered Runestone still does all of that and then some, which ain't bad. Luca, we saw it, but we didn't get to play it. I imagine it still would have been good on the board where we could have played it. Tyrannax Rex, didn't see control. We probably could have brought it in our game against Rakdos, at least that game three, where it probably would have been really good, but it is what it is. Deck performed well. If you're thinking about going to an RCQ, this ain't a bad deck to take. But I'll see you guys in the next one.